There's something about the world of Tron, and especially Tron Legacy, that is incredibly immersive. I'm going to share 3 observations from these Tron movies that you can use if you want to build immersive worlds in your films. Let's start with the arrival. At some point, your character arrives in the world. Here's a good way to think about it. If you were isekai'd from a fantasy world into this one, what could you observe? Well, you'd probably notice the polarization of opinions, there's war and conflict, but there's also new technologies and advances in science. So if you just arrived here randomly, you'd notice that there's a lot of stuff going on right now. And it's kind of a similar thing that happens with these movies. So in the original Tron, as soon as we show up onto the grid, there's theological persecution happening.
You guys are gonna make my user, Mr. Henderson, very angry. He's a full branch manager.
Great. Another religious nut.
In Legacy, there's the release of NCOM OS 12, and then on the grid, we arrive to an expansion of military and industrial powers. So, in other words, something is happening in the world. The world is moving, things are happening, changing, progressing. It makes the world feel like it's lived in. There are actual people or programs that are making decisions and learning and discovering things. So if you're making a film, what's happening in your world? Is there a big change of power, like an election? Is there an attempt to fight back against gangs and crime? Are they on the brink of new scientific discoveries? Are 2 world powers about to get into war? Anything that's happening at this type of a scale makes the whole world feel like it's tangible and realistic. And there's not like 30 different things that have to be changing or progressing. Like I mentioned earlier, if we were to examine this world, there's a lot happening all the time. But in a movie, we can keep it a lot more simple. There can be 1 to 3 things, and it's enough to give us a sense that there's other people in the world other than the main character. And the way Tron uses this idea of arriving in the world is the MCP is actively capturing programs and quelling any devotion to the users. In Legacy, Clue is creating the army and he's repurposing programs, and he's also actively trying to figure out how to take programs into the real world. And I think that helps a ton with the immersion, is the fact that these characters, these antagonists even, are actively trying to pursue something and accomplish something. In their pursuit, it is affecting and changing the world in which they inhabit. That's a great way to increase immersion and add authenticity to the world that you are trying to build. Now, the second point here is what I call echoes. The events of the world should have reverberating changes to the world. Okay, that's kind of an obvious statement if you think about it. That's like saying, if someone invents a light bulb, a couple years later, you start seeing light bulbs in people's houses. But it's so obvious that like it kind of needs to be stated. What are the echoes from the past that influence the present? It's literally history. What's the world history? What's the backstory? What happened in this world that led up to this movie? And you can be as nitty-gritty as you want. So for example, in Tron, Dillinger stole Flynn's code, which put him in a leading position in the company for him to take Walter Gibbs' MCP program and modify it. Unintentionally, this program gained the ability to learn and modify and grow itself, so it grew to become the MCP that wants to take control of the world. To do so, he captures programs and reprograms them or de-reses them. And with all that in place, the stage is now set for our movie to take place. That's a pretty nitty-gritty, in the details explanation of the backstory of Tron. If you wanted to keep it really simple and basic and high level, all you need is 3 to 5 word sentences. So you could say, Flynn created Clue, Clue overthrew Flynn, Flynn got trapped in the grid. That's it. You can keep it high level like that if you really want to, because you don't need detail. You can if you want to. I mean, that's totally up to you, but it's at least very helpful to understand the main events in the past that have led up to the current events. Whatever the case, answers to these questions will echo from the past and into the present, and boom, you've got a world that feels tangible and deep and immersive. And so leaving these echoes in your story just show that there was a world that existed before this movie. And these echoes help the audience gain awareness and context of the world that they're going to be inhabiting for the next 2 hours. Now, this third tip allows you to keep your arrival and echo details pretty simple, while still leaving room for depth. Because if you want to achieve immersion in your films, you're gonna need some depth. And the way to do that is actually by not including details. It's ambiguity. Leave some details up for the imagination. Seriously, in Legacy, the origins of the ISOs are never like explicitly addressed. They're a straight up mystery. And the thing is, they don't need to go into detail on how they came about. I know it's kind of a complaint about the movie, but in my opinion, it's really not that big of a deal. Plus, there are hints that like Flynn introduced romance into the grid, and so maybe the ISOs are kind of a Adam and Eve type of story. But that's what ambiguity does. Ambiguity allows you room and space for theories, for the audience to come up with their own ideas and use their imagination. It's the great thing about movies and about good stories is coming up with your own theories and trying to explain how certain things happen in the world. Not only is it really fun for the audience, but it's immersive too. There's so much that's just ambiguous to us. There's so much that we don't know. There's so much uncertainty that it makes the world interesting. It makes the movie interesting. This is something that Quentin Tarantino has talked about with Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction. He said that he's never going to give his opinion on what Reservoir Dogs means or what's in the briefcase in Pulp Fiction because he loves hearing other people's theories on it. He leaves room for theory. That takes restraint and creative discipline to not explain everything away. You don't need to explain everything. And when there are minor details that you want to share, just hint at them. In Tron, the origins of the MCP are hinted at with this shot here. In Legacy, the ISOs aren't really explained, but Zeus and his affiliation with Korra is just hinted at. There's some kind of history that we just don't know about. So I encourage you, as you're thinking of your film and trying to build a world for the film, leave space where there's no details. You don't explain it. And let your audience do that for you. And oftentimes they will come up with much better theories than you ever could on your own. If I find the clip, I'll include Tarantino saying pretty much that exact quote. So just to recap, these Tron movies are really immersive, and the world building of these movies is super impressive. And these high level ways of building your world can help you create more immersion in your film. Think about The Arrival. What is happening in the world? This gives the audience a sense of progression and liveliness. Consider the echoes from the past. What has got us to this point? This gives the audience a sense of context and realism. And then leave room for ambiguity. Leave some of the details up for imagination. This allows the audience to create their own theories about how the world works. And the nice thing about world building is that if you use these three things, you don't need to plan out as much as you think you do, especially that ambiguity layer. The audience will fill in the gaps with their imagination, and that's one of the best things that you can do for your movie. Or you just have Daft Punk score your movie and increase immersion by 1,000%.